Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock. Let's go over the market. Let's talk about what is happening in the market, what happened today, what we can expect to finish off the week on Friday. Because again, friendly reminder, the market is closed tomorrow. And yeah, let's just really go over the general market and Tesla stock. So if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you do enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts, updates on the charts, etc., again, I do share my thoughts with my members every single day during the market hours, right? Essentially, when the market is trading, I'm updating my members there, on Tesla for $3 a month. So the link is down below if you are interested to join. I just clicked on other things by accident somehow. But yeah, definitely check it out. The link is below for just $3 a month, constant updates if you're interested, or for $5 a month, you get updates from the first tier, so Tesla plus other stocks, and NVIDIA updates as well, again, for $5 a month as well. So anyways, jumping into it, Tesla. Closing today, actually up ever so slightly, up about 0.15%. Really nothing to write home about. Pretty flat day for the most part. But, to be fair, the market today has been pretty flat. So you can argue Tesla is, pretty much in line with the market. Not overall, ultimately, really going a whole lot of anywhere, right? So, yeah, let's talk about what I think is going to happen first. Now, before we jump into Tesla, I want to very quickly talk about QQQ here. QQQ is setting up, what potentially could be a bit of a bottom signal, or at least, potentially looking, promising, right? And that's of course, well, we're still holding market bias, right? We're holding market bias. We are obviously a lot closer to the bottom Bollinger Bands than not. And I think worst case scenario, QQQ drops to about $500 per share. But honestly, that might not even happen because, we could be setting up what looks to be a potential inverted head and shoulders pattern, maybe another day or two of chop. And then I think, there's a good chance that we actually rally, right? As long as we continue holding pretty much, 510 roughly, I would say, ish. Yeah, I think it looks pretty damn solid. And of course, if QQQ decides to rocket and, it looks pretty bullish, well, that should be hopefully, of course, positive for stocks like Tesla stock. But with that being said, looking directly at Tesla stock, so we've been holding the market bias for quite some time, right? We've been holding the market bias for quite some time now. The one thing I don't like, I guess I can say, is the fact that we're kind of hugging it for too long at this point. Like, I want to see a stronger bounce off of it. Now, it's not too bad so far. We did get a nice strong bounce here. Now we're just kind of coming back into it and kind of holding it again. So, it's not the worst thing in the world, but I definitely would like to see a stronger bounce than we're seeing so far. At least just some stronger bullish momentum to come in on Tesla stock, ideally sooner than later, because the longer we take here, it feels like the more chances there is that we will make that one slight leg lower I've been talking about, because again, ultimately we are still in this downward channel that I've been talking about for quite some time. In other words, also a bull flag, you can argue, right? If you zoom out right here, you can argue it's a nice little bull flag. But yeah, as long as we're in this downward channel and, if we can get a bounce from here sooner than later, in my opinion, we could easily come back down a little bit lower and make our way into the 370s, which should act as a pretty powerful support as it did back here, which also will be the bottom Bollinger Bands. Worst case scenario, again, in my bullish scenario, would be a drop sometime next week, closer to like 360, maybe even entering the 350s barely, which would be that bottom touch point of that bottom of the channel once again. But it would also line up pretty well with this massive area that we have yet to actually fully retest upon this rising triangle breakout that we had over here, making higher highs and higher lows and pretty much equal highs, right? We had that massive rising triangle breakout, and then we're essentially coming back into it, which could be a really, really bullish retest, and then we ultimately go higher from there. So again, that's kind of my overall perspective. I still think Tesla is actually quite bullish here. It's hard to look at the stock right now in the chart and say it's bearish, because it's absolutely not bearish overall, structure speaking, right? Obviously, short term is a little bit bearish because of, we're in a downward channel. But overall, the bigger picture, which we'll look at the weekly chart very soon, it's hard to look at the stock and not think that it's overall bullish. Why? Right? And, simply put, because, on the weekly chart, we have the EMA cloud catching up to us on the weekly chart, which is obviously, pretty damn good. But the thing that really matters is the fact that as I remove the Bollinger Band, so it's not too confusing looking here, I'm going to remove all indicators for now, just so it's a clean look, right? Simply put, this massive area right here was a massive area of supply, essentially, right? For the most part, when we made that initial all-time high way back when in 2021, massive area of supply constantly got rejected around this general vicinity. And now we broke out of it, right? Which is obviously a good sign. And we're essentially bull flagging back into it on slightly lower volume as it's slowly decreasing now the past couple of weeks or so, right? Arguably 3 weeks, which this week will be definitely lower volume, most likely because, well, tomorrow is closed. But nonetheless, the point is the fact that we're kind of bull flagging and consolidating back into this area that was an area of massive supply, and now obviously, fingers crossed, of course, nothing is guaranteed, but seemingly turning it into an area of demand. So that's a good sign, right? That is a good sign. So let's see how this actually ultimately follows through. And if this actually does hold, as well as it does, then, I do think that we should, at the very least, retest all-time highs, if not make fresh all-time highs. I don't know when. I have no idea when. I'm not going to try to predict when. I don't know. Could be before earnings, could be after earnings. No idea. Probably after, but again, I'm not trying to predict here in terms of timing. I don't know the timing. That's probably the hardest thing to predict by far in this market, right? Just in general, the timing of things. This is why I personally rarely buy options. And if I ever buy options, which is pretty rare, it's not like some short-term gambling stuff. It's usually like, several months out at least, right? Because again, I'm more of a share person and I'm more of a selling options type person, because the one thing I cannot predict, despite I do think I can be pretty accurate on chart predictions in terms of overall movement, is the timing of the movement. That to me is the hardest part and arguably the most impossible part. So I don't know how long it'll take, but structurally speaking, looking pretty good, coming back down into a bull flag setup on slowly decreasing volume on the weekly chart as we're coming in to retest this former supply area. Hopefully now, of course, demand. So again, this is why the structure looks great. Like there's no way you can look at this chart and be like, it's bearish. The only thing that's arguably bearish is the fact that we should, in theory, have a massive kind of, fair value gap type scenario setting up all the way over here, which, is well below where we are currently. But the thing with fair value gaps is the fact that, sometimes you could be waiting for a very long time for those, things to fill, right? I mean, at some point it could fill, but a lot of times you'll be waiting for them to fill. Like a good example on NVIDIA here is, for instance, you can argue the fact that, there was essentially a, fair value gap kind of sitting somewhere around here, right? You can even argue there's one pretty much right here, right around this kind of 115 range. But, ever since we made that, back in October of last year, man, you've been waiting quite some time and you're still waiting for that to get filled, right? That fair value gap to get filled. And maybe it'll get filled at some point. It's just the issue is nobody knows when. Nobody knows when. And, that's kind of my problem with some people that, they only trade off of fair value gaps, because, man, who the hell knows how long it'll take to get there, right? It could take very long. Sometimes it could be quick, but sometimes it could be long. Anyway, kind of going off on a little tangent over here. But nonetheless, the point is the fact that the structure looks good. This is a massive bull flag. It is, of course, a bull flag, which is inadvertently also essentially a downward channel. So while we remain within this downward channel, I am obviously overall bearish, but I do think that at some point, sooner than later, but hopefully, but at some point we will break out of this downward channel. Did I say bear flag? Anyway, you get the point. Bearish inside, bullish once we break out. Pretty simple stuff. So yeah, that's my main way of looking at Tesla right now without overcomplicating things. The stochastic is still pointing straight down, but it is finally getting close to oversold territories. And you can see last time that happened when the stochastic was just pretty much plummeting to Earth's core. Let's take a look at the chart and see what that looked like back here, right? So the stochastic last time it was plummeting like pretty much the exact same way it is right now was back when we had this massive rally all the way up to about 265. And then we plummeted all the way down to 214. I'm sure you remember that, pretty much not long before earnings. And then of course we had the election right here. Stochastic was doing the exact same thing it's doing now, which tells me that there could be a little bit more choppiness ahead. Could be a little bit more bleeding to the downside. Again, 370s, worst case, about high 350s to about 360. I don't see too much lower than that. But we are getting closer than not to a bottom still, right? Despite the choppiness, which I did say we'll chop, like a week ago now, and we are chopping, right? But, it's looking the exact same as it did here as we are now looking here. It's a pretty much almost the exact same type scenario, more or less, in terms of just, the way the candles look, lower volume, stochastic, like they all look almost identical to this, to a certain extent, right? And the RSI, of course, getting a little bit oversold, and especially if it gets oversold again, that could be phenomenal opportunity as well. So anyway, the point is the fact that I think overall, regardless, we're still closer to a bottom than we are to a top, in my opinion. Overall, of course, right? But you know my targets at the downside. We have the Bollinger Band bottom scenario sitting at around 375. I actually did sell cash secured put today for next week, right? Pretty much because I think that I don't want to buy here. This is just my perspective. I personally don't really want to buy here because yes, it could be the bottom. This could be the bottom easily, absolutely, and we just rock it from here. Absolutely could be a possibility, but I don't know that, and nothing's convincing me that that's the case. So cash secured put while we continue chopping, because as far as I'm aware, we'll just pretty much continue chopping here and really doing a whole lot of nothing until we finally truly pick a direction. I'm slowly making money on that premium, kind of just soaking away to theta more or less, right? Or even if we do go up even slightly, premium actually goes pretty aggressively the opposite way. So that's my kind of current play right now, right? If we do come down, my cash secured put is around here. Hey, I'll enter shares, not a problem. If we don't, not a problem. I'll buy on strength on the breakout, which at the moment is still sitting closer to about 425 per share. Because again, we are in a downward channel. So, that is going to naturally, that breakout level will slowly decrease. But I still think about 425 roughly should be that kind of, line in the sand that, a breaking, especially a close above that, should be good news for the bulls. And a breakout should begin not long after that as well. But yeah, that's probably the main thing I'm looking at Tesla right now. So let's see how it plays out. Let's see how Friday goes. I don't expect a move just yet personally, but you never know for sure. So that's my overall analysis on the chart. Not really much different than what I've been saying before, but don't forget, I also predicted this chop, and we're getting the chop, baby. We're getting that chop. Just, it is what it is. Now, taking a quick look at options flow on Tesla stock. By the way, Chatterfill, phenomenal option service. If you're interested, link is down below. Definitely check it out. Highly recommend it. It's a great options tool if you're someone that, uses options in your analysis and technical analysis and whatever the case may be. But looking at it over here, pretty mixed for the most part. You can see overall options flow for call flow and put flow fairly equal, slightly on the bulls' favor. And, the bulls are slightly taking the upper hand, but not by a whole lot. So overall, throughout the most part, I'm not seeing anything that really stands out. Usually when I scroll like this, I'll look for really large numbers like this, but it's a leap, so I don't care too much. Or I'll look for anything that's a golden background. If it has a golden background, that's usually something to pay attention to. I'm not really seeing anything like that right now, so I don't really care, right? For instance, another 2.4 million, but it's a leap 2026. So again, I don't really care about leaps too much personally. But we can also take a look at a confirmed options flow and see if Tesla's anywhere over here. AMD, just, man, poor stock cannot catch a break. But 7 million confirmed bearish flow on Tesla. Not a whole lot on Tesla. I would say that's pretty muted. So I wouldn't, really write home about it too much, to be completely honest with you. So anyways, yeah, that's my thoughts. Let's see what happens on Friday. And yeah, good luck to everyone, I guess. And again, market is closed tomorrow. So thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace.